Okay. My name is Erica Hatfield. I'm with the Convention of States, Texas. Tonight's call, I have Lani Popp. We're going to speak on redistricting tonight. And I want to begin by saying Convention of States is based on Article 5 of the Constitution. It is a way to amend the Constitution. So far, 27 times the Constitution has been amended, but it's been done by Congress all those times. And this time, Convention of States project is working on the other way to amend the Constitution. That's through Convention of States. And so Texas is what we call a passed state. We've passed the resolution. We're waiting for other states to join us. So it takes 34 states to call the convention and 38 to ratify any proposals that come out of that convention. So while we're waiting for the other states to join us in this project, Texas is working on self-governing citizens, building up and educating self-governing citizens. And tonight we have Lani, who's going to talk about redistricting. So we have just finished our census, and what that means is that we're going to redraw lines. And so Lani, welcome. And so if you could just introduce yourself, and how did you even become an expert on redistricting?
Well, I would not say I'm an expert on redistricting, but I'm just an informed person on redistricting.
That's perfect.
Well, I ran for State Board of Education, and my name is actually pronounced Lonnie Pope.
Lani Pope. Okay, thank you.
But it looks like Lani Popp, and people, I just let them say whatever they need to say. So, so I ran for State Board of Education, and I narrowly lost. And when we're looking at the redistricting, I feel like we really need to protect the State Board of Education, because that's an area where, it's going to affect us for a long time. Those decisions, and we know what's going on in some schools, and we want to make sure that, all of our children who are in public schools are protected. So we just saw a change in the state board, from, we used to have a 9-6 Republicans. Now we have a 8-7, and we have some very liberal minded people who don't understand our educational law, where, parents have the right to determine the education for their child, and also the moral upbringing of their child. So we need to really make sure that we're able to get the, people on the board who, share our values. So I started looking into this because when I lost, there were over 1 million votes in my district. And in some districts, there were only 500,000 votes. So it was really not proportional. And I'm going to show some maps when I share my PowerPoint. So would you like me to go ahead and
yes,
start?
You do. I already gave you access to share.
All right. Well, let me start here, and I'm going to go to my slideshow from the beginning. It's going to let me do that. There we go. Okay. So this is I'm just calling this Redistricting 101 because I think we all need
everyone. I mean, I am completely clueless. So thank you.
All right. So redistricting basically is done to determine who's going to represent the citizens of Texas or the citizens of any state in specific districts. And so we'll talk about where there are districts. So redistricting is done by each state to equalize the population of that district so that there is fair representation of its citizens in each district. So you don't want one district with 1 million people and another district with 500,000 people, because that, and we'll talk about that, that goes against the 14th Amendment and the one person, one vote kind of thing. So we want those equal protections. So redistricting is done every decade, and it's determined by the current census. So every 10 years we do a census, and we do that for, part of it's for this reason, so that we can give it to the states And the states also, the national government is redistricting. They're telling us how many states representatives we get. State senators are always going to be 2, so that's never a problem, but the representatives can change, and they have this time. So what I want to do right now is show a fun little video. One of my favorite movies is Mighty Ducks. And in Mighty Ducks, the main character, he does a petition because he finds out that the districts have been redistricted because there were too many kids in one certain district, and in the district that he's in, there were not enough kids, so it was redistricting. So one of the main characters from the bad team, well, they're really a good team, but the mean team, I guess, has to come over to him. And so I just kind of like this, just kind of give you an idea of the general idea of what redistricting is, moving people around.
Awesome.
Can you all hear this?
No,
Can I hear the sound?
no.
All right, hold on. I'm going to stop share for 1 second. I'm going to go up and see if I can find the audio. Well, I might have to just not do that. But anyway, in that video, they get upset. He gets upset because they've worked out a deal, and basically they've decided that they're going to go ahead and redistrict, and he will at that point, but they're going to let that one player play with his team. And so at that point, he decides to, that's one of the favorite lines for a lot of people, to quack at his boss. His boss is Mr. Ducksworth. And so he quacks at his boss. All right. And the slideshow doesn't want to go from the beginning. I do not know why, but let me see if I can pull it up. All right.
I see a button. Yeah, I see a button that says resume slideshow there in the upper left.
I do not see that. Okay.
Right there. Yep.
All right. Anyway, so he ends up quacking at his boss, but fights and gets the students. So the idea is there's redistricting in everything, in baseball, and a lot of things we do. So if you have too many kids, then you're going to redistrict. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And same kind of thing that we're going to do here. So let me move on to the next one. So, okay. I'm sorry, everybody.
No, that's okay. I think, yeah, there you go. Nope, one more back.
All right. So the 14th Amendment, basically, it kind of mandates that we have one person, one vote. All right. And so we want to make sure that every person's vote is equivalent to another person within the same state. So if we have, 1,000, a million members in one place and only 500, the people 500 or whatever would have more power than the person with a million people in their district. So you're not giving them the same representation. So the rule comes out of the context of equal protection. And there was a case, Reynolds versus Sims in 1964. And they decided that they needed to have the legislatures with roughly equal populations, state legislative districts. So, so in Texas, we might have districts with, 1 million people, and, in Montana, they might have a lot less since they have less citizenry. So there's no particular number, they just have to be equitable. So the Equal Protection Clause requires substantial equal legislative representation for all citizens in a state, regardless of where they reside. So there's also some additional rules. So when they are redistricting, they have to make sure that they are not denying the right based on race, color, or language groups. So you cannot have, they cannot set up a district that is only one particular race or only one language group. So we can't do that. So we have to try to make it more representational. And so that's a very large requirement. And this is a really daunting job. I would never.
I bet it's really hard. You have to know the entire demographics. Yep.
I would never want to do this job. So, but thank goodness there are people. So who's counted in redistricting? Well, there's basically 3 different ways you could count people. You could either count people by who lives there, and that would mean voters and non-voters, or you could look at it from potential voters, people who are potential voters, or you could look at it people who actually are registered to vote. So the Supreme Court, though, Abbott versus Evanwell back in 2013, kind of loosely decided, though, they liked the first one, that it should be of all the people that are there. Now, this is kind of a difficult thing again. That means if we have people there who are counted but not citizens, they can be counted. And so in a way, that does give an advantage. Let's say, in some of the Texas counties closer to the border, you might have, a 10th of the population, people who, aren't eligible voters. And so the people who are voters kind of have a little higher ability to get their point across than in somebody where in another district where most of the people are registered voters. So, but the Supreme Court said they want it based on the actual number of people living in that area. The only person who said they wanted voters was Clarence Thomas. So Clarence Thomas was the only person who actually said it should be the voter able to do this. So also, not on this case, but there's also there's allowed to be a slight variance in districts. So, but not more than 10%, okay? And even less in a US congressional district. So our current census, generally the legislature has the census by April. And there are several reasons why the last one was delayed. One obviously is COVID, because nobody was going door to door to get this, so it wasn't sped up. Also, there were some lawsuits against the Trump administration because the Trump administration did not want to do people who were here illegally and count them. And so that pushed everything back. And then when the Biden administration came in, then they decided that we would count every person legally here or not legally here. So it made our census come out late. It didn't get delivered until mid-August, and the legislature redistricting computer system in September. So we are just getting the census. Now, we knew ahead of time some major things. So we knew that Texas had gained about 4 million residents, most of them from California, and that we also had 2 more congressional seats, and California has 1 less congressional seat. So, so we have 2 more congressional seats to add, and that's a good thing, in my opinion, for the United States and for Texas. So, what is redistricted? So the most important, really, well, I think they're all important, but is the Texas U.S. Congressional District. So our congressmen who go to Washington, D.C., and we redistrict that. So they redraw the lines and they have to have those equal, but this has to be very tight. So it's very hard for them to draw this. Again, I do not, you know, I really, they've been, trust me, they've been working on this for a while. They're not all of a sudden getting this. They've kind of had an idea. So they've been looking at this and they had a basic idea. The next is all of our Texas senatorial districts where our Texas state senators are. Then the Texas House districts, the State Board of Education districts, and then the local government single member districts. So Buda has a local government district and water districts and those sort of things, and then judicial districts. So we'll kind of talk about each of these because they all are slightly different.
And that would include precincts as well, right? When you say local?
Yes, and the precincts will change based on the other districts because a precinct cannot have more than one, you know, SBOE or congressional. So yes, so precincts can change, but they do not set the precincts. The precincts change based on what they set other things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so here, right here is Texas. This is basically how we vote. So this is our 2020 Trump-Biden votes. You can see the majority of Texas voted Republican. It's really, you know, important to look down here at these counties because this is where we're going to need the change. And so if you notice these counties, there's been a big change in these counties from 10 years ago when they were more blue. So now we're going to look at some of the districts and I'll show you the maps for each of these districts. So the first one is the Congressional District, and we kind of talked about that. So the size has to be very close, and they give them a good faith, you know, but they have to be drawn to almost exactly the same population. So this is the hardest one to do, and I'm sure this is the one they're doing first, and probably in their mind, many people's minds, a lot of people, you know, don't even vote for State Board of Education because they don't think it affects them, but it all does. So here are U.S. House of Representative map, and you can see that for the most part we're blue. We do have some areas, you know, where Tony Gonzalez was that have more of the light shaded, not as secure Republican. But if you look at this map, it kind of goes along with the Trump-Biden vote. It's very similar. But that doesn't happen for everything. So here's the state Senate. The state Senate, it is to be elected from single member districts, and that would be the precincts, and each Senate district to be composed of territory that's all touching. You can't do anything outside. So the Texas Constitution requires the legislature to redistrict state Senate districts during the first regular session following the census. If the legislature fails to do so, the redistricting task falls temporarily to the legislature redistricting board. However, because this is being done in a special session, the legislature redistricting board has no power because we only gave them power in a regular session, but not outside of a regular session. So it's going to be an interesting what's going to happen because we know we're going to get lawsuits. There's already a lawsuit, believe it or not. So this is the Texas Senate district. Notice this right here.
Right.
Not the same as what we have with the Biden and
right.
Trump vote. So it's deviated from that. These areas are pretty much the same, but this area right here, because of the way it's redistricted, it was districted. They put swing districts, and it ended up that all those swing districts went blue because you had a stronghold in every one of them. So the House districts are portioned according to the same census, and it has 4 basically areas that we have to look at. A county with sufficient population, exactly one district, can be formed into a single district. A county with a population smaller than the population needed for a whole district can be kept whole and combined with one or more counties to form a district. A county that has sufficient population for 2 or more districts must be divided into that number of districts with no district extending into another county. And that's kind of what happened in Bexar County and in Austin. So our county and Houston. So the counties are so large that they had to be divided.
Understood.
Each county with a population sufficient for 1 or more whole districts plus a fraction of another district must be divided into that many whole districts with the excess population added to 1 or more contiguous counties to form an additional district. So, so it's kind of their rules for how they, and again, it's very convoluted and it's kind of tough. So let's look at the map for the Texas House. So it follows very strongly with the Texas Senate. So this is the Texas House map. And if you'll notice, we have similar, the way it was redistricted 10 years ago. This area has become, you know, a stronghold, even though with the Trump vote, you saw many more red counties.
Yeah. What's the blue on the bottom left?
That is just this area blown up.
Okay, I gotcha. I see it. Yep.
Yeah.
The Galland area. Okay.
And so the State Board of Education also has to come in compliance with the 1 person, 1 vote. The statute covering the board, what happens with the board is that there's 15 members on the board, and after everybody's going to have to run after they decide what the new districts are, but then half of them will run for re-election 2 years, they'll draw, and then the others will run for election 4 years. So 7 are going to have to run in 2 years and 8 will run in 4 years. So for some people, it's going to be a, you know, a little bigger of a burden. So please remember that map that we looked at a while back, the Texas Trump versus Biden. So here is the state board map. And this is the one that really bugs me because it is over a third of our state because of the way it was drawn. So even though most of this area is red right here in the Hill Country, Austin made the difference. And so we have all this blue. So that's why we're having such a close, you know, we have the 7 to 8.
So for these these blue districts, were there not any contenders, or, you know, were there?
I was a contender in 5.
Okay.
Ivy ran in 1. In 3, we did not have anybody running, and in 2, we did have somebody running, but that was 4 years ago.
Okay.
Well, 5 now. So I ran here, and that's where Ken Mercer used to be, but because of the growth in Austin, and especially in this one area here in Southern Austin, but also I had I can't even think of the word, challenger who was other party, starts with an L. Oh my gosh, it's out of my head. Thank goodness gracious.
Libertarian, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had a libertarian that took 3%. So neither myself nor my opponent got 50%. And what's sad is that libertarians tend to vote with the Republican Party. They tend to vote more conservative. So it actually, we feel it took off voters from us, and that 3% would have made a difference. Even 2% of that, even 1.5% of that would have put me over the top. So a lot of times people who are voting libertarian just to vote libertarian are kind of throwing away their vote and really voting for a Democrat. And we saw that in a lot of places in the state this year. So the local government, single-minded districts, we're talking about precincts, we're talking about different municipalities. You can have a population of 1.5 or more. They have one mayor elected at large, 16 members in their district. And after each redistricting, the term of the members of the governing body representing the single member districts expire, and an election should be held for each new district to fill the position for that district. So those who choose to do the single member districts like Buda, they are going to have new elections. So judicial districts are different. So judicial districts are not covered by the one person, one vote requirement. But they can be redistricted because the state wants to equalize the burden that's on certain courts, because certain courts are going to have a greater burden. Courts in a district that is more rural are not going to have as much of a burden on them than one that's urban. So they can at any time come in and change the judicial caseloads and redistrict judicially, but it's not affected by the census. And so that can be redistricted, but it probably won't be because of the added burden to the legislators. So what happens after the legislatures approve the redistricting plan? Because they're going to set out a redistricting plan, and I'm going to show all the members of the House and the Senate who are working on this, but there's tons of other people working on this, trust me, because those members are on other committees, and this is not something just anybody can do. So they have people in there who understand the demographics, who understand the land mass, who understand everything. So they've been doing this for a while. So what will happen is, and it's happened almost every single time since I've been in Texas, which has been a long time. So they put up a lawsuit challenging the redistricting plan. And just so you know, the Democrats have already filed a suit to block the governor from redistricting in special session. So part of that is to put things off, and they want a court to redistrict Texas instead of letting our legislature do that. So they're hoping for a court to step in and redistrict. And so they're trying to put it off as long as they can. So before 2013, Texas and a few other states, and it was designed this way, were required to obtain federal pre-clearance of any redistricting plan before they could be implemented. But in 2013, the provision of Federal Voting Rights Act was held invalidated by the US Supreme Court. So the US Supreme Court said, no, you can't just look at certain states' redistricting plans and not other states' redistricting plans. So they determined that wasn't a provision. And so we no longer have to get our redistricting approved. So we just do our own. So there's a word out there, gerrymandering. So gerrymandering refers to basically the party in charge setting up the districts more to the party in charge. And the term came from a guy named Albright Gerry. And even though it's spelled Gary, it's got that hard H. So Elbridge Gerry was the Vice President of the United States. But before that, he was the governor of Massachusetts, and he created a very partisan district that was very bizarrely shaped, and people used to joke that it was a mythological salamander. And it was just done so bizarrely, obviously, to get around every district so he could run again. So gerrymandering is not illegal, but is often thought of in a negative manner by many. But as Obama says, elections have consequences. So, and if it was turned around and Democrats are running the stage, they would gerrymander it so that it would favor them. And that's just kind of what happens. And then the other side comes out and does a lawsuit, and it's just kind of the way it is. So it's a negative process. It's a long process, but it's very important, and we have to do it. So what could the current redistricting mean for Texas? Well, we're going to get 2 more congressional seats. And if they redistrict this in a way that more positively reflects our voting habits as Texans, we might have more conservative congressional seats. We really need a more secure state board of education. There's presently 7 Democrats and 8 Republicans. And when you look at those maps, it is the most egregious map in the sense of it just doesn't even reflect the way we vote and the makeup of our counties. So you have majority of conservative counties being represented by somebody who's liberal because there's a El Paso stronghold or something else, and they last tried to do them as swing districts, and it just didn't work. So we want, hopefully, representation that more correctly mirrors the political leanings of Texas. And I don't feel that's wrong. I mean, they're going to have to do this some way. And I'm sorry. I know a lot of people want it to be done more without people looking at that, but you're never going to get that, because how would they do it? At what point? And do they just randomly do it? It would be almost impossible. So in order for us to know what's happening, we can go to the Texas Redistricting website. And if anybody wants to take a picture, so you have this, and it's a guide to redistricting activities carried out by the legislature. It talks about everything that's going on, and it talks about past redistricting. It's really a great website. So it also gives you current committee hearings on redistricting, ideal district population figures, and a timeline and a glossary. So I went there, and that really did help me with this. So they update it regularly, and it is a great place to be looking if you're looking at redistricting.
Now, when you go to the website, can you sign up for updates that you get emailed?
I don't think you can on that one, but I think you can on a couple other places.
Okay.
So District Viewer is another one. And District Viewer has, and I've gone to District Viewer. Right now, they don't have any maps up. So right now, they only have previous maps. They don't have any suggestions for the new maps. Once they do, you can overlap the new map over the old map, though. It's really cool. But you aren't going to find anything right now, but they will start to change this, and you're going to be able to see how they're doing it. And this is really, really neat site. And so it shows the Senate, the House, Texas Congressional, and SBOE. And then I don't think it shows the precincts or anything else like that, but that more, like I said, more comes out of what they decide on the rest. So another one is the Capital Data Portal. So the Capital Data Portal can be accessed through the Texas Redistricting website. And it has maps, it has data, it has the census districts, everything. So if you go to the Texas Redistricting website, you can go into their Capital Data Portal, or you can use this link right here and go directly into the data portal. So you'll be able to see kind of what they're thinking. I'm not sure when they're going to start putting that out. They won't do anything until they've met more. So one of the great things too, if you just want to learn more about redistricting, is a guide to redistricting. And the guide to redistricting, let's see. So that's the website for that. And you can look at that. And I got a lot of information on that from them. So it was a wonderful resource. And it's very easy, very clear. And I really liked it. So what can all, so we could speak with members of the redistricting committee. I went down to Austin back in May with several friends, and we went to every Republican member of the redistricting committee to their offices, and we were able to speak to a few of them in person, but most of them we just were able to speak to the people that run their office. And in every office, there is somebody who is running kind of their redistricting. So you can go in and talk to them. You can testify at hearings, or you can just watch hearings. It's really simple now because they let you testify on Zoom. At least they did through the summer and in session 1 and 2. But I don't know what's going to happen now. But you can let, when you're talking to the members of the redistricting committee and even your own, let's say you have a Republican that's your representative or senator, you can talk to them and tell them that redistricting is really important for you and you want it to represent more your country. And you can take some of these maps and you can print them out and you can show them the Trump-Biden map versus any of these maps. Only the congressional map is close to the Trump-Biden. The rest of them all have that area down along the border, which does not mirror our, our true.
Right.
So, and please, I'm asking you to fight for the Board of Education. It's one of the least representative of the current Texas voters' political beliefs. And in my opinion, it's one of the most important because of the CRT and because of sex education and so many different things that are going on. We want to make sure we're protecting parental rights. And the majority of public schools are doing a good job. It's just that when somebody goes astray, boy, it can really indoctrinate our kids. And we should never be about indoctrination. We should always be about education. And so we need to just make sure that, we have members there who kind of share our belief system. So here are the members of the House Redistricting Committee. And I've gotten to talk to Todd Hunter. He was great. And when I came to talk to Todd Hunter, he told me I was the first person who came to talk to him about redistricting. So there are not a lot of people fighting for redistricting for State Board of Education. I've also been able to talk to James White, wonderful Republican, and he was very gracious and spoke with me. And so, but I went to every Republicans in the House and talked to the people that are working for them so that we were able to, and we showed them the maps from the state board. Now, one thing I do want to tell everybody, because we know lawsuits are coming, anything you leave with a member of the districting committee can be subpoenaed. That means you could be asked to be there. So be very careful what you leave. I would say don't leave anything. You can show them, maybe pull it up in your iPad, but I would say don't. I know I did leave, but whatever they want to do, I'll show up because all I was giving them is the maps, and this is the maps of this, and so it wasn't my personal opinion. It's just fact. So these are the House members. If you have some House members any of these members in your district, please contact them. I know Andrew Murr out in the Kerrville area. You know, we really need to get Andrew Murr working with us, and he's a great guy. And so that we just need you to contact the Republican members. And then here are the members of the House. I'm going to move this down so it's not blocking. So the members of the House, I got to speak with Ryan Hughes, wonderful person.
Senate, Lonnie.
And then I've left some information with Joan Huffman, she's the head, and different people on this committee. So we just really need to make sure we're, and of course, Donna Campbell has been tremendously supportive of schools and what we're wanting to do to protect parental rights in schools. I think that's pretty much it. So these are the members. I am fine if you want to, you know, send this out. I'm fine if anybody wants to send this out to your members so they can see this information. And again, it's just very important that, you know, we understand this, because, you know, it's not done for no purpose. I mean, we have to do it because of the 14th Amendment. We have to equalize those. And so while we're equalizing them, we also need to look at the demographics of the Texas voter too, you know. So I think it's important to understand, you know, I don't feel represented on the state board. You know, I'm in Northern Bexar County and I won Northern Bexar County, but I'm, you know, and my friends in Bernie, my friends in Comal County, they're all very conservative, but we are not being represented on the state board. And, you know, it's kind of ridiculous. I had 13 counties and 11 of them voted with me. I was the main person, but it was Austin and just Hayes County just a little bit because of Buda and Kyle, which is it's Austin South now, kind of. So, you know, I think if we, you know, really work on this, we can help Texas stay more secure. Again, that, to me, that map with the state board is very telling and kind of shocking. And when I brought it to anybody who I talked to, SREC members or House members, they're pretty surprised when they see it. They didn't realize how much of Texas was under the control of the Democrats and, you know, and in the hill country of Texas. So are there any questions you all might have?
Yes, so we have the third special session coming up. So what can a self-governing citizen do? I know you gave us a list, but in particular, you're saying go to the committee, but is there a timeline? Is everything going to happen in this third special session, or will it continue on afterwards?
I think it's going to happen in the third special session. The reason why is because generally, if we don't, it's going to push back the primaries. And we're already thinking that the primary might be in May now. So we really don't want a primary in June, although for me as a teacher, that's a really great thing because I'm out of school, but I also don't like 100-degree weather. So I prefer something a little cooler because it's no fun to stand at a poll when it's that hot. But I will do whatever it takes. So, so we're looking at things being pushed back, and generally we have people who will, you know, sign up to run in November, but we're not going to have that. We won't even, like right now, people are like, well, are you going to run in District 5? And I'm like, I don't even know if I'll be in District 5. You know, I could be in District 3. They could move where I live around. We just don't know.
So we're expecting then by end of third session, special session, that the lines have been solidified, right?
I would hope so.
Okay. And then during this third special session, the way I understood it, you're saying that we should go and talk to these committee members
Yes,
about our wishes and
yes,
how these lines should be drawn.
right. And you can testify. So if you're in one of the districts where you are from Bandera County or Comal County or Kendall County, you know, you don't have representation. You know, you can just say, my county is very red and we are not being represented on the State Board of Education, or we are not being represented. You know, I know your state senator in Comal, Joanne, is Donna Campbell.
Yes,
Your state representative is Kyle Biederman.
yes,
But so you, and then your US Congressman is Chip Roy.
yes,
You have that representation, but you don't in Comal County, as red as you guys are, have the State Board of Education. And the same with Kendall County, and the same with Kerr County, and, you know, Fredericksburg and Blanco, and all these counties who, Bandera County, who are very red, and we just don't have the representation. So you can go and plead that case. So
can I ask a question? And you probably covered it, and you covered a ton of information. Oh my gosh.
okay, well, good.
We have how many State Board of Education districts total?
Yeah, 15.
15. Is that
Yes.
set in stone? Why would we not be able to split some of those? Like if Comal and Kerr and
But we have to have equal representation.
okay.
So we can't split without equal representation. So there was a time when there were more State Board of Education members, and, you know, they could decide to do, you know, more State Board of Education members. I just don't know what they're thinking at this time.
Okay, so that could happen. That's a possibility that we go to 16 or 17 different.
Yes, it's always going to be odd numbered.
Okay.
Tie. So it's always been odd numbered, but there could be more. I just don't know what they're going to do.
Okay.
But if they're keeping this 15, they need to look at those 4 districts in Southern Texas that have become, they thought were swing districts, but they've become blue districts, and only because of certain areas that tend to be larger and need to be split up somewhat. Any other questions?
Yeah, so how does one find out about who's running for school board, Board of Education, I mean? Is there a central location where one could look?
Well, after all the redistricting is done and people put in their name, yes, you can look on texas.gov and you can look and see who's running, because they will list the candidates who are running. So, but that won't, I don't know when we're going to sign up, maybe in January now. So, because, you know, like I said, I don't even know where I'd be running.
But you will be running.
It is my goal to be running, you know, but God could change those plans, Joanne. So, you know, right now I'm saying it's my desire. And, you know, unless God steps in and says, hey, Lonnie, let's use you somewhere else.
All right.
But,
excellent attitude. I love it.
Yeah. So, and I'll always be an advocate, and, you know, for our kids. You know, I'm a public school teacher, and I'm in a public school that majority of my teachers are conservatives. Their majority are Christians, and, you know, and it's great as they respect the, you know, veterans. They respect the flag. We do the Pledge of Allegiance every day. We have a moment of silence, and a lot of our kids will fold their hands and bow their head, and teachers too. And, you know, it's just a great community, you know, and it's what and we very much respect parental rights, you know, so that's what we've got to do. We have to understand, what I understand as a teacher is that, well, I'm a speech pathologist, but I have a degree in education also. What I understand is that the parent is my employer. And, you know, and that child is their child, not my child. Now, will I love that kid just like he's my own? Absolutely. You should have seen me jumping through hoops for my 3-year-olds today. It was the greatest, most fun day I've ever had. It was awesome. You know, but we have to make sure we're really respecting parental rights. And we're not doing anything behind the parent's back. We're not indoctrinating their kid. And we're just teaching, you know, when I'm teaching a kid how to talk vocabulary, I don't throw in vocabulary about the Republican Party. That would be ridiculous, you know. I am teaching a kid basic academic vocabulary, things to know to help him in life, you know, and the rest, you know, I believe to his parents and his upbringing. And I don't try to get in the way of his, you know, the parents teaching them about religion, the parents teaching them about morality. We don't want to get in the middle of that. We want to have classrooms that are politically free, you know, and we just have to be really, really careful what we're doing, because some of the colleges right now have sent out kids who have been indoctrinated too. So we have some recent graduates that are coming out with some attitudes, and when they come in, that's kind of where we're having the problem. Teachers, seasoned teachers, not old teachers, my age, we don't seem to have a problem with this, but it's younger people who are trying to indoctrinate, not just teach. And it's a tough job teaching, you know, and I don't want to bash teachers, because I would tell you the majority of them I think are amazing, wonderful, and underpaid people. But we just want to protect our kids and parental rights. And that's just kind of where I'm at.
So do you, if one of, so we are organized by Senate districts. So we have a regional captain over the Senate district, and then we have a district captain over the House districts.
Right.
So they often have meetings for their area and invite constituents to come and listen to speakers. So are you open to speaking in front of these groups?
No, I'm afraid to speak in front of people. That's a total lie. That's why I'm a speech pathologist. Yeah, no, I love speaking in front of people, and I am.
You know, if you were busy, or you know, if you that's another option. You know. So
I'm busy, but what do they say? Give a busy person a job if you want to get something done.
Right.
So you know, I do work, but I have no more kids in my home, so now I do more. That's when I decided to run. All my kids were out doing good things in the world. 4 of them are in public schools. 3 of them are speech pathologists like myself, and then 1 of them is a physics teacher. And then my 5th kid is unfortunately just in the Air Force as an oral surgeon. So
yeah. So another question I have is, I'd like to bring you back and talk about the School Board of Education, because
sure.
The local school boards are in the news right now, or underground news, I guess you could say, a lot, whereas the School Board of Education is another layer on top of that.
Yes, State Board of Education, SBOE.
Yeah, the State Board of Education. So a lot of us, me included, I know that it's there. I just don't know what it does and how it decides, you know, what kind of authority it has. So I'd love to bring you back and talk about that.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. And I think what's happened is we've been asleep at the wheel.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of us, even though we had a red state, we were ignoring the state. We were ignoring school board meetings, schools.
Yeah.
Completely. And the Republican Party has put our emphasis on parental choice. And while I agree with that, the polls, the latest polls, it's going to change. Trust me, there's going to be less kids in public school because of COVID. and everything. And they said that homeschooling's gone up from 5% to 10% nationally. I don't know what it's gone up in Texas, but before COVID, 91% of kids were in public schools. So we cannot ignore 91% and just push for 9%. We have to make sure that the schools where parents are dropping off their kids, that they're being protected. And parents have been shocked during this COVID time when they're seeing some of the stuff that's being taught. Not in my school, but in other schools in other states especially. And parents are waking up. And you woke up the angry lion, or, you know.
The mama bear. Yep.
Mama bears. That's it. The mama bears, they're out there. You see them at the school board meetings. Oh boy. But it's time that we stand up. I for the first time, I have endorsed a lot of school board members all over the state, people that reached out to me specifically. And, you know, I have supported a lot of school board members. I do want to make sure they have some understanding of how a school runs, you know, and some background that could help. But, you know, we need to be fighting for school boards. We really do. We need to change the makeup of our school boards, and we need to wake them up and say, you know, this is not about you changing society. This is about you, you know, educating our kids.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much. Well, we're gonna end the call, but how can folks reach you? Do you have a website or Facebook page?
I do have a website. It's LaniPope.com, I think, but I have a Facebook, Lani Pope for SBOE, and they can leave me messages there at Lani Pope, LANIPOPP for SBOE, and 4 is FOR. So,
Okay,
yeah, but I've
got your contact information.
yeah, she has my contact information. And if somebody wants my email, you know, we can give them.
Yeah, they can reach out. Yeah, they can reach out to me.
Yeah, they can reach out. And I don't usually give out my phone number, but Joanne's got it. So
yeah,
don't give it away. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, I'm passionate about education.
Thank you so much for coming tonight and talking to us about redistricting. All right.
Well, thank y'all.